Behind your refrigerator, or underneath it behind a snap-off grill, there is a coil of black tubing about the size of a bath towel. In 1955, a serviceman brushed that coil twice a year as a matter of routine, the same way he oiled a motor. Today, most of those coils have never been touched, not once, not in 15 years. And that single neglected coil is quietly running the most expensive appliance in the house harder than it was ever designed to run. This is the story of what that coil actually does, why the habit of cleaning it disappeared inside one generation, the $12 brush that reverses it, and the one honest test that decides whether any of this is worth your Saturday. And here's the honest part stated up front, because almost nobody writing about energy savings will say it. If your refrigerator is new, your coils are sealed behind the back panel, and your house has no pets, the saving from this is small. Real, but small. If your fridge is 10 years old, sits in a warm garage, and its coils are packed with a decade of dust and animal hair, the saving is large enough that you will see it on the bill. Knowing which of those two houses you live in is worth more than the brush. That test comes in a few minutes. Anyone who has ever pulled a refrigerator away from the wall knows the sight. A gray felt of dust across the coils, thick enough to lift off in sheets. Hair, lint, crumbs, a pen cap. And behind it, a compressor that has been running through all of it. Here is why that matters. And it is one of the most misunderstood machines in the house. A refrigerator does not make cold. Nothing makes cold. What it does is move heat, taking warmth out of the box and dumping it somewhere else, and that somewhere else is the condenser coil. Every calorie your milk loses comes out of that coil and into your kitchen. Cover the coil in dust and you have wrapped the machine's only exit in a blanket. The heat cannot leave. The compressor runs longer to get rid of it, then longer again, and the machine you never think about becomes the machine that never stops. The arithmetic explains everything. A refrigerator is the only major appliance in your home that runs 365 days a year, all night, while you sleep, while you are on holiday, forever. A modern, efficient unit uses somewhere around 350 to 500 kilowatt hours a year. At typical mid-2026 residential rates, that is roughly $60 to $90 annually, and that is the good case. An older unit, or a struggling one, can pull 1,200 kilowatt hours or more, which is over $200 a year for the same cold sandwich. The gap between those two numbers is not usually the badge on the door. Very often, it is maintenance, placement, and a seal. And unlike almost every other saving in a house, this one is not a habit you have to keep. There is a way to hear the problem before you ever see it, and it costs nothing. Stand in your kitchen and listen for the compressor. A healthy refrigerator in a normal room runs somewhere in the region of a third to a half of the time, cycling on for a stretch, going quiet, coming back. That rhythm is the machine doing exactly what it was designed to do. A fridge with blanketed coils loses that rhythm. It runs longer, rests less, and in bad cases it barely stops at all, and the owner has usually stopped noticing because the change happened across years rather than weeks. The other tell is heat. Put your hand near the back or the base of the machine while it is running. Now, warm is correct, since that is heat leaving the box the way it should. Genuinely hot, with a fan struggling, is a machine that cannot get rid of what it is carrying. Neither of those tells requires a tool, and between them they will tell you within about a minute whether the rest of this video applies to your kitchen. You do not have to remember to switch anything off, or take shorter showers, or nag anyone. You clean a coil twice a year, and the machine simply costs less for the other 363 days. So the obvious question is the one this whole story turns on. If this is that simple and that cheap, why has nobody told you? The habit is older than the electric refrigerator. Before the compressor, American kitchens ran an ice box, an insulated wooden cabinet with a block of ice in the top and a drip pan underneath, and that pan had to be emptied by hand or it flooded the floor. Maintenance was not optional because the machine punished you within a day if you skipped it. When electric refrigerators arrived through the 20s and 30s, they carried the habit forward, and they wore their coils in the open, mounted visibly on the back of the cabinet where anyone could see the dust gathering. Homemakers' manuals of the era listed coil cleaning alongside cleaning the stove. Service calls were routine, appliances were expensive, and a refrigerator was expected to last 30 years because a household could not afford otherwise. 3 things ended that, and none of them were secret. First, the coils went into hiding. Manufacturers moved them from the visible back panel to underneath the cabinet, behind a kickplate, out of sight and out of mind. That was a design win, since it made kitchens look cleaner and the machine quieter. But a coil under a fridge sits 4 inches off the floor in the exact zone where dust, crumbs, and pet hair collect, and unlike the old back-mounted coils, nobody ever sees it getting dirty. Second, appliances became cheap. A refrigerator stopped being a 30-year investment and became a thing you replace. And once a machine is disposable, maintaining it feels pointless. The repair culture that kept vacuum cleaners and toasters alive for decades quietly died. And the manual that came with your fridge, which does actually tell you to clean the condenser, went into a drawer unread. Third, and this is worth being plain about, Nobody in the appliance business has much reason to bring this up. Not because of a scheme, because of margins. A technician quoting a $1,500 replacement earns real money on that job. Telling a homeowner to spend $12 on a brush earns nothing at all, and it takes a service call off the calendar. Both can be honest men. Only one of those conversations pays the truck payment. So the advice simply stopped being offered, and within a generation most homeowners had never heard it. None of that changed the physics. Heat still has to leave the coil. Dust still insulates. Which brings this to the part that decides everything, because whether this is worth your afternoon comes down to which house you live in, and the difference is genuinely large. The big win looks like this. A refrigerator 8 years old or more. Coils underneath rather than on the back. Pets in the house, which is the single strongest predictor of a badly clogged coil. A machine that has never been pulled out since the day it was delivered. And above all, a fridge living somewhere warm, meaning a garage, a utility room, or kitchen corner with poor airflow because a condenser trying to dump heat into 90-degree air is already working at a disadvantage before the dust arrives. Houses that tick 3 of those boxes routinely find coils they can lift the dust off in a mat, and those are the houses where the meter reading changes noticeably afterward. The small win looks different. A newer unit, 3 or 4 years old, in a clean, climate-controlled kitchen, no pets, with a sealed back panel the manufacturer never intended you to open. Those machines are already close to their rated efficiency, and there's not much sitting on the table. Cleaning is still worth doing for the machine's lifespan, and you should not expect the bill to move much. And then there is the case that dwarfs both of them, and most people reading this have one. The second refrigerator, the old unit that got demoted to the garage when the new one arrived, now holding drinks and a turkey once a year. That machine is often 15 or 20 years old, running in an unconditioned space that hits 100 degrees in August, mostly empty, and it can genuinely cost more per year to run than the main kitchen fridge does. Before you clean anything, walk out and look at that one. For a great many households, that single appliance is the biggest untouched line on the power bill, and the honest advice is not to clean it. It is to ask whether it earns its keep at all. Run the arithmetic on it, honestly. An old second refrigerator in a hot garage can pull well over 1,000 kilowatt hours a year, which at typical mid-2026 rates is comfortably north of $150. That is real money every year, indefinitely, to keep drinks cold for the handful of occasions anyone opens the door. For some households, the answer is still yes, since a family that freezes half a hog or runs a garden through canning season genuinely needs the space and the machine pays for itself in food. For everyone else, the honest calculation is that the appliance costs more annually than the groceries inside it, and unplugging it is the single largest saving in this entire video. It takes 10 seconds, and there is nothing to buy. This channel exists for exactly this kind of straight answer about the old ways, one honest method a week, and subscribing is how those keep arriving. Now the section the sponsored videos skip, because this fix has real limits, and an honest account owes them the same volume as the praise. Cleaning a coil will not repair a failing machine. If the compressor is worn, or the sealed system has lost refrigerant over the years, no brush on earth fixes that, and the symptom is a fridge that runs constantly and still cannot hold temperature. That is a repair decision, not a maintenance one. It will not turn an old refrigerator into a modern one either, and this is where a lot of frugal advice quietly misleads people. Efficiency standards improved enormously through the 90s and 2000s, and a well-maintained 1998 refrigerator can still use 2 or 3 times the electricity of a new one. If your machine is genuinely that old, the honest answer is that replacement may pay for itself, and I would rather tell you that than sell you a brush. Some units genuinely do not have accessible coils, since the manufacturer built them behind a fixed rear panel. Check your manual, and if it does not describe the job, leave it alone. And the practical cautions are short, but not optional. Unplug the refrigerator before you touch anything back there. Move slowly around the condenser fan and never force it. Do not bend the thin aluminum fins, since bent fins block airflow and you have made the problem worse. Watch the drip pan underneath, which is often full of standing water and will empty across your floor if you tip the machine. Every one of those limits has the same shape. The coil is one part of a system, and the system is the appliance in its room. Airflow, seal, temperature, placement. The parts have to agree with each other. That system's way of thinking is exactly what the household energy vault was built to teach. The whole honest toolkit for finding what is actually costing you money, methods, costs, and limits included. The link sits below this video. And now the $12 fix from the title. The tool is a condenser coil brush, which is a long, flexible bristle brush on a wire spine, made for exactly this and nothing else, and it runs about $10 to $15 at typical mid-2026 prices. Nothing else does the job properly, since a vacuum alone skates over the surface, and a rag cannot reach between the fins. Unplug the machine, pull it out or pop the kick plate off the front, depending on where your coils live, Work the brush through the coil in long strokes following the fins rather than across them, and vacuum up what falls out as you go. 10 minutes, twice a year. That is the entire job, and it is genuinely all there is to it. Then the free parts, which are worth as much as the brush. Test your door seal with a dollar bill. Close the door on it and pull. If it slides out with no resistance, that section of gasket is not sealing, and your compressor is chasing warm air into the box all day. Work around the whole door and check the freezer too. A failing gasket is often just dirty rather than dead, since sugar and grease build up in the folds, so wash it with warm soapy water before you assume it needs replacing. Give the machine room to breathe. Your refrigerator jammed tight against a wall with a cabinet above it is trying to dump heat into a pocket of its own exhaust. A few inches of clearance behind and above costs nothing. Check the settings, because a great many households are running colder than they need. The standard guidance is 37 to 40 degrees in the fridge and 0 in the freezer, and every degree below that is money for nothing. And if you have a manual defrost freezer, defrost it when the frost gets thick. Frost is insulation, sitting on the exact surface that is supposed to be absorbing heat, which is precisely the wrong place for it. The old-timers ran maintenance off one piece of instrumentation, and the modern version costs less than a tank of gas. A plug-in energy monitor, the kind that sits between the wall socket and the appliance, runs about $25 to $35 at typical mid-2026 prices. Plug the fridge through it for a week before you clean anything and write the number down. Clean the coils, check the seal, then measure another week. That number is the whole argument. It tells you what your machine actually costs, whether the job was worth doing, and if you own a garage fridge, exactly what that beer is costing you a year. Households that measure for 1 week learn more about their own bill than any energy audit tells them, because it is their appliance in their room, not an average. And the same meter answers the next question for free. Walk it around the house. The old plasma television, the desktop that never sleeps, the second freezer, the tank of tropical fish. Almost every household finds one thing drawing far more than anyone guessed. The fix, brush, or meter is only half the method. The other half is the ritual the old households ran without thinking, and it costs nothing at all. Twice a year, spring and autumn, the same weekend you change the furnace filter, pull the fridge out, brush the coil, vacuum the floor behind it, wipe the gasket, push it back. It takes less time than emptying the dishwasher, and it is the same rhythm a 1950s household ran because the machine was expensive and the family intended to keep it. That habit is the actual product here, not the brush. The brush is $12 and lives in a drawer. The habit is what keeps the compressor from running an extra 2 hours a day for a decade. The ledger for the whole story then, at typical mid-2026 prices, a coil brush, about $12, and 10 minutes twice a year. A dollar bill, which you already have, for the seal. A plug-in energy meter, $25 to $35, which is optional and answers everything. And the honest reckoning on the garage fridge, which costs nothing to think about, and is, very often, the largest number in this entire video. Here's the thing worth keeping from all of it. The 1950s did not have better refrigerators. They had a habit of maintaining the machines they owned because those machines were expensive and replacing them was not an option. We got cheaper appliances and lost the habit, and the appliance industry had no particular reason to remind us. The coil behind your fridge has been getting dirtier for 15 years for no other reason than that nobody ever mentioned it, and the compressor has been paying for it every single night on your bill. Everything this channel has gathered on finding the real costs in a house, the appliances, the standby loads, the seals, the settings, each with its honest numbers and honest limits, lives in one place. The Household Energy Vault, linked right below. It is the full system for people who would rather understand their house than keep apologizing to their power bill, and the comments are the missing layer. How old is your refrigerator, and have you ever once cleaned the coils? And be honest about the garage fridge, because I suspect half of you have one. 1,000 straight answers down there would be worth more than any chart in this video. As for the other machine running around the clock in your house, the one nobody suspects, and the $20 fix that cut one family's bill by more than their fridge ever did, that is on screen right now. Same enemy, different appliance. Till next time.